steps into it. Pass is caught. Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable!
Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. Unreal. Touchdown! Kansas City! Damian Williams runs to immortality and will be remembered forever in the Chiefs' kingdom.
Yes, hello everybody and welcome in again to another episode of Talkin American Footy on KC Radio 97.7 FM with me, Brent Sternberg, talking all things American football in a season in which we are 6 weeks through. We're ticking on by. We've had Corona jump in and cause a little bit of havoc here and there, including last week, and it's wreaked a little bit of havoc with the schedule as well coming up tomorrow in week 7, but we're 6 weeks through and we're looking okay heading into week 7. There's some talk around the traps that there may have to be some decisions made in the not too distant future regarding maybe rescheduling some games and having maybe week 18 or 19 chucked onto the end of the season and pushing the Super Bowl back. But as we sit now, heading into week 7, it is full steam ahead. This episode, we're going to have a look at week 7, but before we do that, we're going to cast our mind back to week 6 and have a look at what happened. It was a week in which we didn't have Thursday night football because the Kansas City and Buffalo game was postponed. So we'll jump straight into the Sunday afternoon games, and the first one there was the Denver Broncos and the New England Patriots with the Denver. This was in New England. Denver having a good win, 18-12 over the Patriots. It was the Broncos' first win, actually, in New England since week 3, 2006. They generally don't go in there and win, but they won this one. Cam Newton, his first game back since the COVID positive test. He was a bit rusty. The whole Patriots team was, actually. 17 of 25, 157 yards, and no touchdowns, but 2 picks, unfortunately, for Cam. Drew Lock was back from the shoulder injury. He was sloppy as well. 10 of 24, 189 yards, and 2 interceptions. He threw a pair of interceptions, like I just said, but both of those in the last quarter, which was, almost looking like it might have sunk the Broncos, but thankfully they didn't. The New England defense, they deserve credit for holding the Broncos offense to 6 field goals. And then, of course, they come away with 2 interceptions late in that one, but they couldn't get the job done. New England, this game was mucked around a bit because of the COVID, the positive test that Cam Newton had. And then, they really looked like they felt the effects of that. New England, they just looked sloppy and never could really get themselves into the game. So Denver victorious in that one, 18-12. Pittsburgh and Cleveland, this looked like it was going to be a good game coming into it, and it wasn't. It was very one-sided. Pittsburgh 38-7. Pittsburgh now moved to 5-0 for the second time in franchise history. And they're on a really good roll at the moment, Pittsburgh. They dominated Cleveland in this one. Minka Fitzpatrick had a pick 6 in the first quarter on an errant Baker Mayfield throw, and it was all downhill for the Browns there. Baker Mayfield, 10 of 18, 119 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks before he was replaced by Case Keenum. He's got sore ribs, Baker Mayfield, and he was hit a lot and knocked about in that one, and he had to come out of that game, I should say, unfortunately for him. An injury to Devin Bush, the Steelers linebacker, tore his ACL. That is a huge blow for the Steelers. That hasn't really been talked about all that much, but they're going to miss him. I mean, he gives them speed in the front 7 that they missed when Ryan Shazier went down a few years ago now with that awful injury. And Devin Bush is the speed on that defense, and if they're going to win the Super Bowl this year, the Steelers, their 7th, in fact, Super Bowl. They're going to have to do so without Devin Bush, one of their best young players on defense. Tennessee and Houston, this was a mighty performance from Houston. And it was just about game of the week. It went to overtime. Tennessee won the coin toss, and they went down the field and scored. They won 42-36. Tennessee 5-0 for the second time since 2008. Derrick Henry was the story in this one. He finished with a career-high 264 yards from scrimmage and 2 touchdowns, including in that one a 94-yard touchdown run. So he's having another really good year. Derek Henry picking up where he left off last year. The Houston defense, they gave up, even though they were in the game on the scoreboard and played okay, the defense didn't. They gave up 601 yards. So they got absolutely destroyed, that Houston defense. So another win there for Tennessee, and what might have been for the Texans. Another good game here between Baltimore and Philadelphia. This game looked like it was over until Philadelphia mounted a late charge in the last quarter. Baltimore ended up winning that one 30-28. Philly, they rattled off 22 points in the last quarter to get back into that game, which no one really saw coming until it did come. And then we were like, well, look out, Philadelphia might be a chance here. The tight end, Zach Ertz, for the Eagles, he's going to miss multiple weeks after sustaining a high ankle sprain on Sunday. So that's a dagger for them. And the Ravens, they logged just one drive of more than 50 yards, and they went 3 and out on 5 possessions, but they still managed to score 30 points and hold on in that one. They have scored, Baltimore, in every quarter this season. So there's a unique stat. So another win for the Ravens. The Giants, they got their first win of the season. They beat Washington in a bit of a nail-biter, 1-point winners there, 20-19. Their first win of the season. I think I just said second win of the season. Their first win of the season. Excuse me. 3 of Daniel Jones's 4 wins as a pro quarterback have come against Washington. So if only they can play the football team, Washington, that is, every week, the Giants. Kyler Fackrell, he sacked Washington quarterback Kyle Allen and rookie Tay Crowder, who, of course, you may remember was Mr. Irrelevant from the recent draft, scooped up the loose ball and returned it 43 yards for a score to give the Giants the lead in that one, and they never looked back. Ron Rivera, the Washington coach, after that one, explained his decision to go for a 2-point conversion instead of an extra point that would have tied the game at 20 apiece. I don't think you can really blame coaches for doing that sort of thing. You know, if you have the opportunity to win the game, you sort of have to win it, don't you? So they didn't get the 2-point conversion, and of course they didn't get the W. So the Giants 1-point winners in that one. Atlanta, they got a big win, 40-23 over Minnesota. Atlanta, their first win of the season and their first win on the road in Minnesota since week 16, 2008. So a long, long time. Matt Ryan, 371 yards, 4 touchdowns. And it was a big performance for Matt Ryan and the Falcons in their first game under their interim coach, Raheem Morris. Vikings, they're up on the bye now. And it's interesting in terms of, what do they do with Kirk Cousins moving forward? I don't think they're going to bench him, but, they've let this season slip away from them there. What are they, 1-5, I think, now? And it doesn't look like they're going to get back into this season. So they paid Kirk Cousins a lot of money. They're 2 years into that deal now. I'm not too sure what the salary cap ramifications are, but they may be a dark horse to be another team in quarterback contention come the off season. Detroit and Jacksonville is the next game. Detroit won that one 34-16, so they get their second win of the season. They claw their way back. Their record there now 2-3. DeAndre Swift, the rookie there, he had a coming out party, 116 yards and 2 touchdowns. In doing so, DeAndre Swift, the first Lions rookie running back with 100 rushing yards and 2 scores in the same game since Barry Sanders in 1989. So good company to be in there, DeAndre Swift. For the Jags, 5 of Gardner Minshew's 8 touchdown passes during this losing streak have occurred with the Jags trailing by at least 10 points. So after winning in week 1, they're starting to look like the team that we thought they might have been, Jacksonville, and that's not a good one. And they went down in that one. Just recapping, Detroit 34-16 winners. Indianapolis and Cincinnati, there was another big comeback in this one. The Colts, they come from behind 21-0 in the second quarter. Off the back of Phillip Rivers, who went 14 for 21 with 235 yards and 2 touchdowns in the second quarter alone. That's the most in a single quarter in his career. 29 of 44, 371 yards, 3 touchdowns and an interception all up for Phillip Rivers as they come from behind to beat Cincinnati 31-27. And the Colts, it's their first win after trailing by 21 points in a game since week 5, 2003. For the Bengals, Joe Burrow, he was a lot better than the week before when he was absolutely eaten alive by the Eagles. And he found a good connection with AJ Green, who had 8 catches for 96 yards, and that was definitely Green's best performance since his injury-riddled season last year. Chicago, they keep on winning. They beat Carolina 23-16. The Bears go to 5-1 and 3-0 on the road for the first time since 2006. They've got games, though, the Bears coming up against the Rams, Saints, and the Titans. So we'll see what they're really like with those few games. Bridgewater, he was consistently on the run and sacked 4 times with the Bears defense coming at him. The good news is Christian McCaffrey's return is imminent, so they'll welcome him back with open arms. The Dolphins, they smashed the Jets 24-0. It was a shutout. It's their second consecutive blowout victory, and Tua Tagovailoa come into that game. So, and he is going to start tomorrow. So, all those who wanted to see Tua, he's in. They go to 3-3 in second place in the AFC East, the Dolphins. And New York first blanking by their rivals since the 1982 AFC Championship game. So it's the first time Miami have shut out the Jets since the 82 AFC Championship game. The Jets, their first ever 0-6 start. Not a good year for the Jets. Tampa Bay, it's a good year for them. It was a good Sunday for them. They beat Green Bay in Tampa Bay 38-10. Ronald Jones had another 100-yard game there. 3 consecutive games, actually, where he's had 100 or more yards. Green Bay, they waved the white flag, and they got Aaron Rodgers out of there when he was getting eaten alive by the Bucs front 7. Gronk had his first touchdown of the season as well. So that's good for him. Rodgers was pressured. I mentioned the pressure coming from the Bucs defense. Rodgers is pressured 12 times, the most disruptions he's faced in a game this year. So really good win there for Tampa Bay. San Francisco had a good win as well over the Rams, which not many people saw coming, 24-16. Garoppolo 7-1 in primetime games now. So he's almost like the anti-Andy Dalton. 23 of 33, 268 yards, that is, and 3 touchdowns. And the O-line didn't allow a sack and managed the near impossible by neutralizing Aaron Donald. So well done there. Monday Night Football, the doubleheader, Kansas City, a good win over Buffalo, 26-17. The rookie Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a big game in that one. And the other one on Monday Night Football was Arizona, who made light work of Dallas. Andy Dalton didn't have a good game, and neither did the Cowboys defense. They allowed 30 or more points for the 5th consecutive game. The biggest winner from week 6 for me was Tampa Bay. I spoke about that, a good win over a contender in Green Bay. And the biggest loser was Cleveland, who had an opportunity to make a statement against the Steelers, and they didn't. The teams on the bye were the LA Chargers, the Raiders, Seattle, and New Orleans, who are all back in action this week. And I'm going to turn my attention to the action this week, week 7, when we return on Talking American Footy with me, Brent Sternberg. You're listening to KC Radio 97.7 FM. Back soon. Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to Talking American Footy with me, Brent Sternberg, on KC Radio 97.7 FM this Sunday night, where before the break, we had a look back at week 6 in the NFL and all of the weird and wacky and wonderful things that happened. Some really good wins for some teams and some poor losses for others. What we're going to do now is turn our attention to week 7, which, unlike week 6, begun on Thursday Night Football, and it wasn't too much of a game until late. Philadelphia, they come from behind and got a really big win, their second win of the season over the New York Giants, 22-21. This one was in Philadelphia, and the Eagles at home, they were down 21-10, and then rallied to win that one late. And that's 8 consecutive wins now for the Eagles against the New York Giants. So another divisional team that has the wood over a divisional opponent. Carson Wentz in that one, 25 of 43, 359 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Jalen Hurts made an appearance in that one as well and played a couple of snaps. The Eagles, with that win, they go to 2-4-1 and on top of the division for the time being, with Dallas still to play, of course, tomorrow. And the New York Giants, they fall to 1-6 in what is a season that I don't think they're going to yield too many more wins, and they're going to have another early pick, and it'll be interesting to see what they do in terms of maybe bringing in another quarterback, because Daniel Jones I don't know if you guys watched that game, but he had that long run, which should have turned into a touchdown, and then he stumbled at the 20-yard line and fell on his face and made himself look a little bit silly. But the good thing is, I suppose, on that play, is that he didn't fumble the ball, like he seems to be doing a lot throughout the early part of his career. So the Giants 1-6, and that run, just on Daniel Jones, that was the fourth longest rush in New York Giants history and the longest by a quarterback. And it should have ended in a touchdown, and it didn't. So they went down in that one, the Giants 21-22, Philadelphia 2-4-1, and sitting on top of the NFC East for now. Somebody has to win that division, and we'll get to the playoffs. And I think it might be Philadelphia. Okay, let's turn our attention to the games that are on tomorrow morning, starting with the 1 p.m. time slot, 4 a.m. of course, our time, and we have got a humdinger up first. Pittsburgh and Tennessee, the two teams who were supposed to play last week until the schedule was shuffled around, but we get a Week 7 matchup now between Pittsburgh and Tennessee, who go into the game as the last two undefeated teams in the AFC East. And, of course, at the other side of this game, there'll be one team who will be in pole position to earn that number one seed, that all-important number one seed in the AFC. This is in Tennessee, so Pittsburgh go in Tennessee with their defense minus Devin Bush trying to shut down Derrick Henry, who is in some incredible form. The Steelers, they were able to neutralize the Browns running game last week, and they dared take Baker Mayfield, to win the game on his own. They're going to try and do that again this week, of course. If you want to beat Tennessee, you need to stop Derrick Henry. But can they actually do that? So I'm not too sure, because Devin Bush is a huge part of the front seven, and Derrick Henry is a huge man and hard to stop. So, we'll see how this one plays out. Tennessee, they become the first team in NFL history last week with a 350-yard passer in Ryan Tannehill, of course, and a 200-yard rusher in Derrick Henry in the same game. So they're putting up some offense, and they had to score 42 points last week to beat Houston. So they can put up points, and it's up to the Steelers defense to stop them. This is going to be a great game. I'll get to the TV schedule later on, but I'm pretty sure this is the game on ESPN on 4 a.m. So if you've got ESPN, get up and have a look at this one. This is the best two teams by record anyway in the AFC right now going at it, and it could be an AFC championship game preview. And it's hard for me to do this because anyone that has listened to this program will know that I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers man, but I'm picking Tennessee. I'm picking Tennessee at home to win this game. I've been mightily impressed by them through the first 6 weeks, or 5 games for them, but 6 weeks. I think they will win at home. Not so good of a game, this next one. Dallas at Washington. Both teams struggling, that whole division struggling. Dallas, they have not struggled against Washington of recent times. They've won 7 of the last 8 games. This is a different Dallas team, though, of course, with Andy Dalton on board, and a team that rocks up to stadium sometimes and forgets to pack their defense. Dalton didn't look very good last week. He had 2 interceptions. Zeke fumbled a couple of times, and it really was felt to me anyway, watching that game, like a team and a coaching staff and a supporter base sort of coming to that realization that, we're not any good. You know, Dak Prescott, our quarterback, we pin our hopes and dreams on him. He went down, and we talked ourselves into the fact that we might be okay all week. We were telling ourselves that all week, and now the Arizona Cardinals come to town and they put a pin in the Dallas Cowboys bubble. So it felt like they come to that realization. On the Washington side of things, Ron Rivera, he said the only way to learn to win is to play to win, and that was in response to his decision to go for the 2-point conversion instead of kicking the extra point to tie the game against the Giants, and then perhaps sending it to overtime. It's interesting. Does Dwayne Haskins come back in now? This is obviously a season that is gone for Washington. And I know I've said on this program that, what are they going to do with Dwayne Haskins? Do they bench him? Maybe they just bring him back in now and just really see what they've got. Hope to maybe see some development and whatever, because they're not going to win games with Keenan Allen. They're probably not going to win games with Alex Smith, who's been out of the game for 18 months. Maybe they need to go back with Dwayne Haskins. Difficult game to pick. It's in the nation's capital. flip a coin on this one. I'll say Washington, only because I think their defense can maybe come up with some plays, but that's all I've got, folks. I'm sorry. Buffalo at the New York Jets. The Jets have scored more than 20 points just once this year. They're a team in another bad way. Adam Gase, he's now 30-40 in his career as a head coach, 7-15 with the Jets through a season and a bit. 31 of those 40 losses for Adam Gase have come by double digits. And the Jets' margin of defeat this season is just over 18 points, 18.3 points, and the offense has produced only 6 touchdowns in 6 games. So he's an offensive-minded guy, and there's not much offense here happening for Gang Green. Buffalo come into this game off 2 consecutive bad losses after starting 4-0. And this is an easy let-up for them, I think, in New York, beating the Giants. Weird stuff happens in division games, I know, but I'm without knowing their schedule from here on out, I'm not sure if the Jets are going to win a game this season, and they won't win this one. Buffalo will win. Buffalo will win comfortably. The Carolina Panthers, off the back of their disappointing loss to the Chicago Bears last week, they go into New Orleans to play the Saints, who are coming off the bye. Carolina, they had a 3-game winning streak before they lost to the Bears. This is Teddy Bridgewater's first game, obviously, against his old team, the New Orleans Saints. Back-to-back wins going into their Week 6 bye. That's for New Orleans. 2 wins in a row and in the bye, and now they're coming back at home to play Carolina. Michael Thomas missed 3 games with an ankle injury, and then he missed the 4th game due to a disciplinary, did I say that word right? Disciplinary, I guess, issue. He was told to sit, so it looks like he'll be back, and that's good for them because he's their offensive weapon, isn't he? I think New Orleans off the bye, really impressed with Carolina, but they'll be disappointed that they lost that one last week. So I think that New Orleans might win in a close one in that one. Green Bay at Houston, 2 teams coming off, mixed results. Green Bay with a big win, Houston with a chance to have a big win, and they weren't quite good enough. This is in Houston. Green Bay have never lost to Houston. They're 5-0 over the Texans, and I don't see that changing. Aaron Rodgers completed just 16 of 35 passes for 160 yards with 2 interceptions before he was benched. I think I accidentally said Green Bay won last week. Of course they didn't. They got their behinds handed to them to Tampa Bay. So two teams coming off losses that they'll be looking to rectify. Aaron Rodgers, like I said, was pulled out of that game really just for his own safety after he was being really, feasted upon by the Tampa Bay front 7. Tampa Bay looked really good last week. Houston, they had some things going for them. Deshaun Watson played really well, but like I've said with the other Texas team, the Cowboys, if you don't get any help from your defense, I mean, good luck. You're up against it. So this one, I think Green Bay will go into Houston and win. Although they've started well under Romeo Crennel, their interim coach, Houston, without getting the win. But I don't think they'll get this win either. I think Green Bay will win comfortably. Cleveland and Cincinnati, they play for the second time. Of course, they played earlier in the year. Cleveland were too good for Cincinnati. This is the second meeting between these 2 teams. Baker Mayfield is 4-1 v. Cincinnati, excuse me, bit tongue-tied there. He looked uncomfortable, though, last week playing with sore ribs against the Steelers, and they were hitting him, and eventually he was pulled out of that game for Case Keenum. Nick Chubb is still out, so, if Baker Mayfield is not at his best, then Nick Chubb's still not there. This could be a bit of a sort of closer game and a closer matchup between the Cleveland offense and the Cincinnati defense. Speaking of the Bengals, under Zach Taylor, the Bengals are now 1-11-1 in one-score games. So when it goes to the wire, they generally don't win. And they were just really disappointed last week. They built a 21-point lead early in the second quarter. Well, they led by 21 points early in the second quarter against the Colts. And then at halftime, I think they were only in front by a field goal. So they let that one slip. That one was on the road. This one is at home to Cleveland, and I think Cleveland will win and sweep that series. The final game in the early window, Detroit at Atlanta. 3 of the last 4 games between these 2 teams have been decided by 7 points or less. The Falcons, they got off to a good start under Raheem Morris with a 40-23 big victory there over the Vikings. The Falcons fans, they should savour this the connection between Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, because I'm not sure how long those two guys will be together. And I mentioned the breakout performance from DeAndre Swift. They'll be looking forward to him hopefully putting this offense on his back again. It's in Atlanta. I'm going to pick Detroit, but I am not confident at all. But they're the early window games, gang. We'll take another break, and then when we come back, we'll turn our attention to the mid-afternoon games and Sunday and Monday night football. And there's a bit of a alteration to the schedule, which I want to touch on as well when I return on KC Radio 97.7 FM. You listen to Talkin' American Footy with me, Brent Sternberg. Back in a bit. Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to Talkin' American Footy with me, Brent Sternberg, on KC Radio 97.7 FM. Before the break, we went through and we begun our preview of Week 7. We had a look at the earlier games in the first window, 4 a.m. tomorrow morning, of which there's a couple of nice games, including the game of the round, I believe, or game of the week, I should say, Pittsburgh and Tennessee. So that's an interesting one. We look forward to that game. Two teams who are 5-0, of course. And now we'll turn our attention to the mid-afternoon games and Sunday and Monday night football. And I said during the break that there's been a slight fixturing alteration, and that involves this first game that we'll have a look at between Tampa Bay and the Las Vegas Raiders. This game was set to be Sunday night football. We are now going to get, I'll have a look in a moment. I think it's Seattle and Arizona. That's right. Seattle and Arizona on Sunday night. That has been flexed into that position. And the Bucks and the Raiders has been flexed out into the mid-afternoon game. So 7:05, this one will be played. Move from Sunday night. It's John Gruden's first time coaching the Raiders against Tampa Bay, since he, of course, led them to their one and only Super Bowl title, the Bucks. So that's interesting. He's been out of coaching for a while though, so that's probably fair enough. The Raiders, they're coming off the bye, and it's sort of stunted their momentum a little bit, because remember, before the bye they went into Arrowhead Stadium and they had that big win over Kansas City. They're feeling really good about themselves, and they have to cool their jets for a week before they can come back out. They are back at home though, in their nice new stadium there in Vegas. So we'll see how they go. The Bucks, the big win, of course, at home over Green Bay last week. It started really with the Packers actually scored first, and then Aaron Rodgers threw a pick six to Bucks corner safety, I think, or cornerback, sorry, Jamal Dean, a pick six on that one. And then Tampa Bay, really, it was just they were absolutely on fire from that moment on, and won that one 38-10. Derek Carr has looked okay this season and looked pretty good in the win over Kansas City. I did see during the week that he's got some he's got some confidence, or that's not the right term, a chip on his shoulder after when he first moved to Las Vegas, to his new home city. He said that he picked up the paper the first day he was there, and on the back page he saw an image of Tom Brady. Of course, you may remember there was a lot of talk about, will Tom Brady go to a lot of teams, really, but the Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders were one of them. And he says he's used that for motivation. So lo and behold, now he gets to play at home and welcome Tom Brady into the building. These are two teams that I'm expecting to really start to ramp up and work into this season, both coming off two big wins, of course, the Bucks last week and the Raiders the week before. I'm going to pick the Raiders at home, though. We've seen some teams come off the bye this year so far, and it's helped some teams and it's hindered some others. So we'll see. But I think the Raiders will win this one. But I think that'll be a good game, and there may be some points in that one. The next game here, 7:25. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars out in LA to play the LA Chargers. The Chargers are another team, of course, coming off the bye. The last time we saw them was on Monday Night Football with Justin Herbert playing really well, but not well enough to get the win over New Orleans. Both of these teams won their first game in week 1 and haven't won since. So they're both looking to try and get their first win on the board since week 1. The schedule shake-up prompted by COVID-19 actually worked out in favour of the Chargers, with their bye week was moved up to week 6 last week, so they didn't play. The Chargers, they have been the walking wounded. And so a week's rest to recover could be just what the doctor ordered for a team that has started this season 1-4, but they've got a lot of upside moving forward into this season with the rookie quarterback who they've found and who has been better than they probably could have expected in Justin Herbert. They are 1-4, but this is a winnable game, and I do think they will win this game. They certainly should win this game. Jacksonville, they've got some major concerns. I mean, Gardner Minshew is, playing his heart out, but he's not that good. He's not a quarterback. I think that the Jags front office and fans should expect the team to move forward with. And really, since that week 1 performance and the win over Indianapolis, he's been poor. He's another young quarterback that is not getting a whole lot of help from his defense. So I'll cut him some slack there, but if Jacksonville really want to be fair dinkum and try and get to their first Super Bowl and win their first ever Super Bowl, I don't think Gardner Minshew is the right guy. But they'll probably play him throughout the rest of this season and try and remain competitive and win some games. I think this will be a competitive game as far as Jacksonville are concerned. But I think the Chargers will win this one, and I'm really excited to see Justin Herbert play again because I've developed a little bit of a man crush on Justin Herbert, like some people have. He just looks better and better and better as the weeks tick on by. San Francisco, the 49ers, coming off their big win and really important win within that division over the LA Rams. They're in New England. So they come across from West Coast to East Coast to play a New England team, a franchise, who are under 500 through 5 games, remembering they've had a bye, for the first time in 18 years. What a stat that is. They've been incredible. New England, and they'll be pretty keen to bounce back after a sloppy performance at home against Denver. Garoppolo, this is his first time back in New England, of course, since being traded from New England to San Francisco in 2017. And this is a tough schedule for the Niners. They're in the midst of a tough schedule, I should say, but they're getting healthy, and the win over the Rams proved that they're still good enough when they play well, and Jimmy Garoppolo did play well, as well as a couple of guys on offense there for the Niners. New England, they managed just 288 total yards, and they turned it over 3 times, including a pair of Cam Newton interceptions in the quarterback's return from being diagnosed with the coronavirus. So you would expect that he may have still been Cam, feeling the effects of that a little bit. I expect him to play a lot better. I expect New England to be a lot better, and I'm actually going to pick New England to win this game. I think that I'm not sure they're in playoff contention, but they're still good enough to win a bunch of games at home, and I can cut them a little bit of slack. With everything that was thrown around and losing to Denver, although we have seen teams that haven't really been affected by that, like Tennessee a couple of weeks ago. But New England certainly were. But with a full week of practices and everyone relatively healthy, I think that this will be a win to New England. So a win over San Francisco there. Kansas City at Denver, a showdown in the AFC West. Get this, Kansas City have won 9 straight games against the Denver Broncos. 9 straight games. That's crazy. Although they did have a long win streak over the Raiders as well, and that was snapped a couple of weeks ago. So you never know. The Chiefs, they rushed the ball 46 times for 245 yards against the Bills last week. That's the most yardage for a team on the ground, a Chiefs team, since 2012. And it's tied for the most single-game rushes that Andy Reid has orchestrated in his 22 years as a head coach. So they really did sort of flip the script. They obviously saw a matchup that they liked, and they thought we're going to run the ball against Buffalo rather than have Patrick Mahomes throw it all over the place. And, it worked because it was a good win for them over Buffalo. 2 wins in a row for the Broncos, 17 days apart, who delivered a crisp performance against the Patriots. Of course, Denver had a bit of a layoff there as well, thanks to COVID-19 reasons, and they looked a lot sharper than the Patriots. Although they didn't score a touchdown, of course, they needed 6 field goals from their kicker Brandon McManus, who's a very good kicker, to get them over the line. This is at Mile High. Drew Lock, of course, back after the issues with the shoulder injury, but they're generally difficult to beat. Denver at home, I get that, but I think Kansas City will win this game and continue on their merry way. Okay, Sunday Night Football. This was the game that was flexed into Sunday Night Football from the late afternoon games. It's Seattle, the Seahawks at Arizona. Russell Wilson having a really good season, the MVP favourite. I've mentioned that on this show many times. He's 6-1-1 and his career record in the desert on the road against Arizona. So when they go there, they generally win. And this is a big measuring stick game, I think, for Arizona against an undefeated Seattle team coming off the bye. They were a hype sort of team coming into the year. They started okay in the first couple of weeks with Kyler Murray looking really good, and then they've just sort of gone off the boil the last week. The Arizona Cardinals. Seattle, speaking of teams that have sort of changed the way they play, they've dropped back to pass on 67.3% of their plays in the first 5 games. That stat is thanks to ESPN stats. And of course, they've won all those games. Only 5 teams in the league dropped back with more sort of regularity going into week 6. So for all of those Seattle people that have called for Pete Carroll and the Brains Trust there in the Seattle offense to just let Russell Wilson throw the ball, but you've got your wish. You've got your wish, I should say. Russell Wilson is throwing the ball, and he's throwing the ball well, and Seattle are winning, and I think they will win this one too in Arizona against the Cardinals. And then bringing up the rear in week 7 on Monday Night Football is an interesting one. Chicago, who just keep finding ways to win against the LA Rams, who are 14-4 in home games since 2018. That, of course, is at the mainly at the Rose Bowl or the LA Coliseum. Obviously, they're at a new stadium this year. They were a bit sloppy in the game last week. The Rams on 2 plays in particular on successive drives in the third quarter, with 9.5 minutes to play. In that quarter, Jared Goff, a split second late on a deep throw to Cooper Kupp, who was wide open. He just couldn't turn around and make that catch. And then again, Jared Goff to Cooper Kupp later in that quarter. They were inside the 10-yard line, so they were knocking on the door, and he rolled out to his right, Jared Goff. And it was a perfect pass to Cooper Kupp, who just couldn't get the ball and get to the pylon. So a sloppy day for 2 of their star players, or their quarterback and one of their star receivers there in Cooper Kupp. And the Bears, like I say, somehow, some way, they're winning. And it's back to their 2018 formula, really just playing with a ferocious defense. Like I mentioned earlier, they play the Rams this week, and then they're up against the Saints and the Titans. All those 3 teams are 12-4 combined. So we're about to find out a little bit about Chicago. So that's the slate of games for week 7. When we come back, we'll have a little look at college football, and I'll answer your questions as well when we return on Talking American Footy with me, Brent Sternberg. You're listening to Casey Radio 97.7 FM. Back in a bit. Welcome back. You're listening to Talking American Footy with me, Brent Sternberg, on Casey Radio 97.7 FM. Before the break, we went through and wrapped up our little preview of the NFL Week 7. Which looks like being another wonderful week. I just forgot to mention the teams on the bye this week. So Baltimore, Miami, Minnesota, and Indianapolis. They are the 2. How many is that? 4 teams on the bye this week. So they'll be back, barring any unforeseen changes, which they're not really unforeseen changes anymore in this day and age. They're foreseen changes. There's no such thing as unforeseen changes, because anything could happen. But barring anything crazy, those teams will be back in week 8. They've got the bye in week 7. Okie dokie, let's go along now and have a look at college football. The big news in college football is that the Big Ten returned today. So I'll have a look at the results and whatnot next week in a little bit more depth, but we'll go back and have a look at some of the major results in college football last week, which was week 7 of college football. So week 8 being today, of course, and over this current weekend. So on the Wednesday last week, Louisiana, who ranked 21, they beat Coastal Carolina 30-27. They were the only ranked team to play on Wednesday or Thursday. There were 2 Friday games. BYU, ranked number 14 in the nation, they beat Houston 43-26. And then in overtime, SMU beat Tulane 37-34. Clemson, they had a big win over Georgia Tech, the number 1 ranked team in the nation, still Clemson, 73-7 over Georgia Tech. Huge win there for the Tigers. Alabama and Georgia was another game there, ranked 2 and 3. Number 2 and 3 playing one another. Alabama were far too strong for Georgia as the number 2 seed, 41-24 winners. Notre Dame beat Louisville in a low-scoring affair, 12-7. North Carolina, who are ranked number 5, they went down to Florida State in an ACC match. That was a bit of an upset. Florida State won 31-28. Texas A&M beat Mississippi State 28-14. Miami, the Hurricanes, they beat Pittsburgh 31-19. Auburn, ranked 15 in the land, they lost to South Carolina 30-22. Tennessee, a lot of ranked teams went down last week. Tennessee, ranked 18, they went down to Kentucky, of all schools. That's right, Kentucky play football as well. They won 34-7 over Tennessee. Virginia Tech, ranked 23, beat Boston College 42-14. As I just scroll down and have another look here, what else did we have? West Virginia, they beat Kansas 38-17. Ole Miss lost to Arkansas 33-21. Memphis beat University of Central Florida 50-49. What a high scoring affair that one was. Wake Forest beat Virginia 40-23. Marshall had another win, 35-17 over Louisiana Tech. And we had a bunch of games which we seem to have every week postponed. So the Oklahoma State game was postponed. They were set to play Baylor. Cincinnati, who were ranked 8 in the land, they were supposed to play Tulsa, and they didn't play last week. The biggest game probably that was postponed was Florida and LSU. Florida ranked 10, LSU not ranked at the moment, although they are the defending champions, but they're not in the polls at the moment. And Vanderbilt and Missouri was another one that was set to play. Will go ahead, I should say, but that didn't eventuate, unfortunately. So that was college football. Like I say, Big Ten in action today, and the Pac-12 will return in a few weeks' time, and then we'll have the band back together again. You guys sent me through some questions during the week on Twitter. I'm on Twitter at theboylives_26 if you want to shoot through some questions for me so I can answer them on air on Sunday night. This is the first one from Adam. What do you think the Panthers will do at quarterback moving forward, given Teddy Bridgewater's good form this season? That's a good question, Adam, only because Teddy Bridgewater, I like Teddy Bridgewater. I'm a big fan of Teddy, and everywhere he goes, he seems to be looked at as a, no pun intended, a bridge quarterback. And everywhere he's gone, he's played good football. He played really well at Minnesota. He was okay at the Jets when he was there. Played 5 games last year for the Saints when Drew Brees was injured, and they won every game. And now he's at Carolina, and they're playing really well. They've got a really good offensive system there with Joe Brady, who's a fantastic offensive mind. But what do they do? I think they signed him to a 2-year deal. So it depends what happens as well with the team the rest of the way. The way they're traveling, I reckon they're probably going to win Carolina. I reckon they could probably get to 8-8. They can win 8 games, I reckon, and that will probably leave them with a draft pick somewhere in the maybe sort of 12 to 16, 17, that sort of that sort of realm. And if they finish with that sort of pick, I don't think they're going to take a quarterback. And they're certainly not going to give up draft capital to trade up and get into a better position, looking to draft one when they've got Teddy Bridgewater. So I think they, with a little caveat here, 'cause I'm not sure how the season plays out. But they've looked really good through 7 weeks, or through 6 weeks. Sorry. I think they keep Teddy next year. I'm not sure he's their long-term quarterback, but while he's looking okay, while he's looking in the groove, and they've got Christian McCaffrey to come back too, I think they stick with Teddy for the time being. Certainly next year and maybe even beyond. So thanks for your question there, Adam. This next one is from Trevor. Are the Jets not firing Adam Gase for tactical reasons, i.e., tanking for Trevor? Sorry, that question was about Trevor Lawrence. That actual question was from Tom. Yeah. Do the Jets do anything well tactically? I'm not sure. I mean, you would think the good thing to do or the right thing to do if you want to move on from Adam Gase is to do it early, so that you can start to get in discussions with coaches that you might be keen to bring in. And start to, well, because of anti-tampering laws, you can't talk to them, but you can at least set the wheels in motion. So I don't know what the Jets are doing, to be perfectly honest, with not firing Adam Gase. Maybe they actually think he's a good coach. I don't know why they would think that, because nothing that he has done has suggested that he is a good coach. I reeled off some stats in the last segment about his overall record as a coach. I think 31-40 and 7-15 now with the Jets, and a lot of those losses have been blowouts. So yeah, I'm not. I don't really know why they haven't sacked him. I don't mean to come on here every week and call for him to be sacked, but there's some other teams that have been a little bit better than the New York Jets that have sacked their coaches. So maybe they are. I mean, whether or not they sack the coach, I don't think that's going to stop the Jets from ending up with a pick early enough to draft, one of the top quarterbacks out of college. So, yeah, the poor old Jets, hey. This next one's from Liam. Do you think the NFL should change the playoff format if the NFC East win this year only wins 6 or 7 games? Well, first of all, I will say to you, Liam, you've got a lot of confidence in one of the teams from the NFC East winning 6 or 7 games. Yeah, I mean, we seem to have this discussion every so often when one division has a bad year and the winner of that division goes to the playoffs, and they may have only gotten to 8-8, or they may have have had a losing record, or I should say. But can I say that the couple of times that's happened recently, where a team has won their division with a losing record and got into the playoffs, they've actually won a playoff game. Remember Carolina? I think a year or two before they went on to play in the Super Bowl, I think they went in 7-8-1. I think they had a tie that year, and at home they played Arizona and beat them. And then, of course, the most famous example was Seattle, when they won the division with a losing record. I think they were 7-9, and they beat New Orleans, who were the defending champions. That was the famous game where Marshawn Lynch, of course, had that amazing touchdown run, the beast mode or the beastquake run. And then, of course, Seattle went on this great little run after that. It sort of kicked off this great little era that they've had. So, even though teams win, in air quotation marks, win their division with a losing record, they seem to, they don't just go in and get flogged necessarily. We see teams win a playoff game. So I like the playoff. I like the structure of the NFL with the divisions and whatnot. And I like the playoff structure in terms of the four winners of each division get seeds 1 through to 4. I think if you change that to just have a sort of blanket thing where the teams with the best 6 or 7 records are seeded from 1 to 7, and there's no real point having divisions then, other than perhaps to keep some rivalries in check. So yeah, no, I don't. We don't see this happen that often where we have a division that is as bad as this. So, I don't think they should change it, and I don't think they will change it. But thanks for your question, Liam. And the final one this week from Wayne: do you think there might be a frenzy on second-hand quarterbacks this off-season? Well, there may be. I mean, there's always going to be teams that are keen, or franchises that are keen on quarterbacks in the draft. You know, the shiny new toys, I suppose, coming through the draft system. But there may be some interesting quarterbacks up for grabs, second-hand guys, like you say, like Sam Darnold. He might go if the Jets go in another direction, which I think they might. You know, Matt Stafford might be available if they want to tear things down. Matt Ryan might want to be available. You've still got Josh Rosen, who can't seem to stick anywhere. He's at Tampa Bay now, but he's like the third guy. He's stashed away on their depth chart. So there may be, and there may even be, you know, there's always some surprises as well with guys that maybe moved on. Guys like, you know, perhaps Derek Carr, Carson Wentz, maybe, who I think he's having a bad year. I still think he can play Carson Wentz. And then, of course, don't forget, we've still got Jameis Winston, who's sitting behind Drew Brees there in New Orleans. So, yeah, it's going to be a really interesting quarterback carousel to watch this off-season. Like it always is. Okie gang, that'll just about do it for me. Before I go, the games on television tomorrow, the early game, 7 mate from 4 a.m. is Carolina at New Orleans, and over on ESPN at the same time is the beauty between Tennessee and Pittsburgh. I recommend getting up to watch that one. I think that's going to be an absolute corker. At 7:30 over on 7 mate, we've got Kansas City at Denver. That could be an interesting one as well in the AFC West. New England and San Francisco at the same time on ESPN. And then Sunday night football will be Seattle and Arizona. And then Monday night, of course, both those games, the primetime games on ESPN, the Rams and the Bears. I'm going to see you again next Sunday night from 10 p.m. to talk about everything that's happened in the world of American football. I'm talking American footy with me, Brent Sternberg, KC Radio 97.7 FM, 10 p.m. next Sunday night. That's when I'll see you next, gang. Bye-bye.